Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial, and this is the first video from our 2024 astrology marathon, starting with the esteemed teacher, astrologer Viktor. This is probably the most anticipated video. I'm most excited about that. That's why we're starting with it. Hello, Viktor.
Hi everyone. Good to be here again. Yes, I did choose Jupiter and Uranus conjunction because I was born with it. So
Doesn't it
they
make the
are,
best astrologers? Jupiter-Uranus conjunction makes the best astrologers as well.
yeah, I mean, definitely they can have really higher minds. So I chose this topic because obviously, for example, when you are, I'm not a big fan of transits. Uh, I think they are really good triggers to other timing techniques, but I'm really into the phase angle of planets, which means that if you, let's say you want to be looking at how is your love life going to be playing out this year, then you would need to be looking at the sun and the moon distance in your chart, and then you would need to look up at that chart when it repeats again. So Venus and Sun distance is going to be repeating approximately about once every 13 months. And then that's going to be revealing quite a lot about what is happening in your love life. So therefore, when you have got a conjunction happening between, let's say, Jupiter and Uranus, and you were born with it, that just indicates that that's going to be a big 13, 14-year cycle for you anyway.
13, yeah.
Because it's a repetition somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And just before you start, because I love the topic you've chosen, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, I think is the most exciting event of 2024. I just want to announce that Viktor, with this video, is also offering his personal reading for 12 months with a big discount till December 27th. If anyone would like a personal reading, Viktor is, I'm surprised you're still making personal readings because you're a teacher of a different level. And also Viktor is starting a course on medical astrology, which will be 16 weeks. I'll put the link below in the description. Anyone who wants to learn and study with them, this is the best teacher, guys. And also he's doing a retreat in Mexico. If you're interested in that, again, we'll put the link below. It's going to be in February. If you want some exotic time spent learning astrology with the bright mind of Viktor, again, check out the link below.
Thank you. So let's get started with this Jupiter and Uranus conjunction. So first of all, it's going to be taking place on the 20th of April, 2024. Now, this conjunction is only going to be happening once, but it doesn't mean that we need to underestimate this. It is going to be happening on the 22nd degree of the sign of Taurus. However, I would say that it started prevailing something for us already sometimes in 2023, July, because Jupiter and Uranus were pretty much within about 9 degrees apart from each other. And then Jupiter went retrograde, it started pulling away from Uranus again. But then they are going to be again quite close to each other sometime at the end of December, beginning of January onwards. And basically, Jupiter is staying in the sign of Taurus until May 2024, and then it's going to be shifting into the sign of Gemini, which, anyway, I'm going to give some very important dates here. Now, when Jupiter and Uranus meet, basically they meet approximately every 13, 14 years. So it's not necessarily a big cycle. However, what's interesting for me about this combination is that they only meet approximately about every 84 years in the same sign, which is the Uranian cycle. So the very last time when we had Uranus and Jupiter conjunction happening in the sign of Taurus, that happened in 1941.
Ooh.
So obviously, the way how we can be looking at these planetary cycles, we're always going to have to look at the history, because the history somehow repeats, even though obviously the chart is not exactly the same, but some of the themes can stay with us. So in 1941, of course, we know that we were in the middle of the World War II, and then that's exactly when pretty much it kicked off. Now, I'm not saying that we should be accepting war, but, you know, we're going to be seeing some clashes, surely, because if we start thinking about Jupiter, who is the king of the sky, that's a boss archetype, that's a leader. And then Uranus, if we say that that's the planet of chaos and something to do with being rebellious, then what could be expecting here is that maybe someone is going to get elected, for example, as a prime minister. People will not like that. And then eventually it's going to bring clashes somehow in the world. Um, Probably you heard recently, but there is quite a major riot going on in Dublin. It started yesterday, actually on the day when the full moon happened on 4 or 5 degree of Gemini to Sagittarius. And I would like to remind someone that even though there is nothing to do with Uranus and Jupiter, you would think there is nothing to do with it, but there is so much to do with Uranus and Jupiter. Let me tell you why. Because the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus took place on 22 degree, or is going to be taking place on 22 degree of Taurus. That's exactly where the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction took place in 2000. So some of you on a personal level, you're going to have to go back and revisit what happened in your life in 2000, because somehow Uranus and Jupiter will accelerate those type of things. Now, I would like to actually remind everyone that in 2000, we had the bubble.com crash. And of course, Jupiter and Uranus archetype often talks about kind of like the lottery winners. I think people are going to become lottery winners if they do short-term investments. Because if I'm right, in 2000, the year started with skyrockets of high stocks. And then all of a sudden, approximately in September, the bubble.com came in, and then people lost $60 billion. And then we had pretty much of a beginning of a recession starting. So I'm expecting something very similar here with this Uranus Jupiter as well, that something skyrockets. And I can imagine this might be something to do with May, June time, actually. So not even in April, but maybe April, let's say between April and June. The reason why I would say that is because in June, Jupiter and Pluto will have a trine. And that's going to be happening in Gemini to Aquarius. Now, why did I mention the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction and this full moon, what just happened a few days ago? The reason why, because the mean conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in 2000 actually happened on 4 degree of Gemini. The difference, if someone doesn't know, but there is the true conjunction and the mean conjunction. So I'm going to give you an example here. Some people tend to believe that the COVID came in with Jupiter and Saturn conjunction, which took place in 2020, approximately around Christmas time. Now, the planets have got certain type of motions. Like we have got the true node and we have got the mean node. Now, we believe that the nodes are always just going backwards, but actually it's not true. Sometimes they stop and then they go direct for a couple of days, but yet 99% of the time they spend their time moving backwards. Now, the same with the planets as well. So they have got mean motions. So if I added up their average speed and so forth, then Jupiter and Saturn would have met in 2000 on 4 degree of Gemini. And I found it very interesting that this, exactly on the 23rd, as soon as we had the full moon, the riot, or as soon as we were already very close to the full moon, the riot kicked off in Dublin. And that's a Jupiter and Uranus archetype. So being rebellious, not necessarily liking the justice system, or I feel like people are not talking to me in the right manner, or I just want to be somehow expressing my opinion. Jupiter as the planet of opinion, and Uranus is a planet which is connected to self-expression anyway. I want to be standing out of the crowd. I want to be different. I want people to appreciate my different point of view as well. Now, going back to the Saturn Jupiter for a second, firstly in 2000. So it happened on 22 degree of Taurus. Apart from the bubble.com situation, there was another situation where something called Enron, which was one of the top energy companies at that time, and Arthur Anderson, one of the top 5 public accounting firms at that time, were caught in a corporate fraud scandal that led to the bankruptcy of Enron and the dissolution of Arthur Anderson. And Enron basically hid billions of dollars of debt from its shareholders in failed deals and projects. And basically, people lost loads of money. And now I find it interesting that now we have got the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction going on, and some of these claims are still going on after 22, 23 years, and people are still claiming money back, and then they are actually receiving money back from these 2000 claims. Like, it's crazy. And then I was thinking that Pluto is going to be trining Jupiter. So what I would expect there is that some further truth will be revealed here. So this is one thing. Now, I know this might sound more on the negative side, but there is plenty of positive matters with Jupiter and Uranus. Typically, I would say that astrologers are going to be looking at Jupiter and Uranus conjunction as a very positive thing. And maybe some question will, maybe some people will question my, mind if it's at the right place, because Jupiter and Uranus combo typically is a good one. But when I look at history, unfortunately, it doesn't look that too good. One of the things which I picked up on, just going back in history, we had the conjunction in 1775, 1776. That was the American Revolution. It ended when there was an opposition between Jupiter and Uranus. Then we had the conjunction in 1788, 89. That brought us French Revolution, and that was the fall of Bastille. Then we had the conjunction in 1968, 1969. We had loads of protests going on. We had the rise of the civil rights, and basically the gay liberation program started as well. Then we had the recent cycle, which started in 2010 and 11, and there were strikes going on continuously. 2010, we had a strike started because of the unequal wealth of people. So we realized that 1% of the population owns 90% of the earth assets and wealth. We had the Greek protest, which lasted for 2 years. And they were pretty much asking Greece to sort out their debt crisis. And we had the Spanish protest going on. We had the British student protest going on. And then we had the start of the Arab Spring, which was really much about trying to bring down the Arabic regime. So this is the more negative side. And I'm going to promise that I'm going to be a lot more positive later on. Now, there was also something called the extremism in Europe, which started in 2011, and that started with the president being chosen in France. And then that we had this neo-Nazi Golden Dawn movement, which was led by Nikolaus, someone I can't remember his name. And then we had obviously Viktor Orban got elected as a prime minister in Hungary. And then the Greek prime minister got elected. Some of those world leaders who got elected with Jupiter and Uranus are still actually on the throne. So the other prediction I would like to make that these people are going to lose the throne this time around with the
The
next
cycle is finished
election.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The cycle is finishing. So that happened approximately about 14 years ago. Interesting if we start thinking about the Uranus, which has got approximately about 84 years cycle. Jupiter has got about 12 years cycle. So when I divide 84 by 12, I get number 7. And number 7 is associated with the chariot card in Taurus. And when we think about what the chariot card is, well, that would talk to us about triumph and victory and battles and riots and quarrels and disputes. Basically, what we would see on the tarot card is having a white and a black horse and then pulling a chariot, who is pretty much celebrating victory. So they are coming from the battle. So it is, but obviously, in order for us to win something, something needs to be going down beforehand. So the higher message of Uranus and Jupiter is, in my opinion, is going to be about people's freedom in the next 13, 14 year. So the rise of democracy. Yeah, on paper, we've got democracy, but I don't think in reality that's actually the case. But we might start seeing that in Arabic countries, there is going to be more rebellious people about me not wanting to wear, I don't know, hijab or these type of things. Because if we start thinking about Jupiter, which represents religion, Uranus being rebellious about it, so often it brings a religious movements, for example, as well. I would recommend to people to check what is going to happen around 20th of January, both on a global and on a personal level. Why? Because we're going to have a Sun Pluto conjunction on 0 degree of Aquarius. And that hasn't happened since the 18th century. And let's not forget that the last Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, 2020, took place on 0 degree of Aquarius. And then straight after, Jupiter will be trining Pluto around that 0 degree as well. So this is telling me that we're gonna start seeing something early January, and maybe we're gonna start seeing, you know, I mean, often Pluto comes with military actions, for example, or but also Aquarius is very much about space travel and the rise of astrology and something to do with aviation. So we might be having some major technological advancements happening early January, in the middle of January. And then if that happens, most likely I would say by June, that's going to skyrocket when it comes to such things as stock markets or these type of stuff. So, but I would recommend people to do more of a short-term investment, maybe waiting just for the Jupiter and Pluto trine, which is going to take place on 2nd of June, 2024. And then after, I would be extremely cautious about it. The other thing I would like to mention is that because obviously I'm bringing in other elements of the sky picture, but when we start thinking about that, Jupiter and Uranus has got kind of like they are associated with number 7. Number 7 is a Saturnian number. So we can also say that Saturn might be the maturation cycle of Jupiter and Uranus, which would make sense anyway, because Saturn is the bridge between Jupiter and Uranus. So Jupiter wants to have faith. Jupiter is studying. Uranus wants to innovate something. Saturn in the middle would tell us that you know, it's not enough to study, but we're going to have to practice as well. We're going to have to become a master of something, and then after we can become innovative. So Saturn says go back to the basics somehow. And Saturn is looked at as the counterpart of Jupiter and Uranus anyway. Now, Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. for the next couple of years still. So this is very much talking to us about the need to not just dream, but to lay foundation of those dreams as well. With Jupiter and Uranus in the sign of Taurus, yes, we can become a lottery winner, but we need a solid foundation to that. Do not think that you're going to sit around or you're going to buy a lottery ticket and then you're going to win. And then everything is going to play out in the nicest way. No, Saturn wants you to actually crystallize that, to build on that idea, to take it further a next step. But also it wants you to make a little bit slower considerations or decisions about certain type of things rather than jumping into something. Now, that's the negative side of Jupiter and Uranus. It can accelerate our faith, and then we jump into something that might be very silly. Now, thank God it's in the sign of Taurus, which is trying to slow down the process. Taurus is one of the slowest sign overall. So, yeah. Now, the other thing I would like to point out is that this conjunction is happening on almost on 22 degrees of Taurus. So that's the third decan. Now, the third decan is Capricorn, and it is happening on Capricornian dwad as well. Now, if you are unaware of what dwads are, but they are a 2.5-degree segment of each of the decans of the sign. So it always gives you more of a psychological motive. Now, it could, for example, indicate when I want to bring the Taurus and Capricorn together, that we want to be building a better government. And that would be a positive manifestation of this, that Taurus as in building, Capricorn as in government. And then we're going to have kind of like a weird person coming around, Jupiter and Uranus. And then what could happen is that people do not know how to take this person. Some people love it, some people will hate it. So this type of love and hate relationship, it looks to me that it's appearing with this. But also this could talk to us about how the construction industry is going to be changing. So if we think about that, Uranus and Jupiter is innovative together, it's technological advancements, then pretty much this would tell us that there's going to be a technological advancement in Taurian and Capricornian fields. Now, Taurus and Capricorn are ruling the financial market pretty much. So yes, probably whether we like it or not, but we're going to have the one world currency coming around, or we're going to have the digital currencies coming around, and so forth. And of course, I can imagine that people will protest against that. People will not want it, right? Also, if we look at Capricorn dwad, then that would talk about construction business. So that would pretty much talk to us about, for example, that we would be focusing a little bit more on new ways of building houses, maybe to make them safer against earthquakes and natural disasters. Uranus rules those as well. Or Capricorn, of course, on a psychological level, would talk to us about fears. And Taurus is something to do with self-worth. So there is a need here on a personal level to break down some of our fears, to believe that we've got the strength, Taurus, the muscles, to build something up for ourselves. It might be prompting people to be more self-employed, or to be even going back to the basics and do, I don't know, like, have you heard of this vertical garden type of
Yes, that's
kind of
very
like
Uranus Taurus vertical gardening, yeah.
very Uranus, very Taurian, and maybe that's Jupiter might start popularizing that a lot more, so that we can have our tomatoes in our balconies and so forth. And surely that's not necessarily a stupid idea, but you know, even though Jupiter and Uranus have got things in common, such as both are the representation of the sky, So surely the travel industry is going to kick off, whether it is going to be the flying cars. And this is something I've been saying for a few years, and people said, oh, you are stupid. Here you go, the next Olympic Games in Paris, they are introducing the flying cars. And Dubai has already started them anyway. So it's coming. But also this could talk to us about space travels, new discoveries, and eventually it can even talk about the foundational change in astrology as well, because we're gonna discover new things. So the astrology can change significantly as well. And of course, it comes with an element of confusion, right? Oh, so all the chart readings, what we have done so far is not right, or what we're going to do with that. You know, every certain years, probably every 3-4 years, the 13th sign is coming up as a question by people. You know, maybe we're going to realize that, you know, most likely we're going to just explore the sky even more. I mean, to give you some examples there, actually, let me just quickly check the dates here because I took a note of those. But yeah, so in the 2 cycles ago, 1997 and 2010, that was the previous cycle. So 1997, basically they started the electric cars, and the study of Saturn and Jupiter started. And basically they sent out a spacecraft to Saturn, which landed in 2004-5, exactly when the opposition took place between Jupiter and Uranus. So I made a conclusion by looking at loads of historical data that something gets planted with Jupiter and Uranus, and with the opposition, it starts. So let's say if we start, I don't know, the flying cars in 2024, then the opposition would kind of popularize that. And that would be sometimes around 2030, 31. So that was very interesting to me. And then if we start thinking about the 2004 and 2005, we discovered Aries, which is the second largest asteroid object. We discovered loads of asteroids around that time. So this is telling me that there is going to be major astrological improvements going on, most likely.
We might find the 12th planet that everyone says.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely would not be shocked. I mean, you know, Pluto was a planet, and as soon as Aries got discovered, then Ceres and Pluto got demoted as a dwarf planet. So obviously that was the very first way of kind of like introducing Aries into our life, which is the asteroid of chaos and discord and feminism as well to a certain level. So I feel like that the expansion of the sky is going to be a big topic. And God knows, maybe we're going to find some living biological something on other planets as well. Because Taurus is kind of like the Earth. So we might find something which has got very similar qualities to Earth as well, for example. So I can imagine UFOs popping up as a major topic. Of course, that's a Uranian topic as well. Now, Jupiter also talks to us about languages. So it could talk about the revolution of languages. Maybe we're going to be able to talk to animals. That's what came to my mind with Taurus. Some people might think that I'm stupid, fair enough, but I read it 2 weeks ago that they have already discovered something which is able to communicate with animals.
I will give you an example. I just got an email today from a company, and they said we're looking for a famous astrologer.
You're breaking up.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Sorry. I was just contacted by a
I can hear you now.
I was contacted by a company who said they want to make a digital AI of me image that will speak on all languages of the world. So I'll say it in English and it will be translated with my image, with my face into all the languages. So there you go. It already exists. And Taurus rules language,
Yeah, it's all.
actually, in Vedic astrology, the spoken word. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in medical astrology, obviously, Taurus would represent the neck and the tongue. And also, that's a Venusian sign. So that's so much to do with your vocal cords. Right now, even though the speaking would belong to Gemini and Mercury more, but that's all about just being able to express something which already is on your throat. So that's why it rules communication. So this could revolutionize. Now, I also would like to mention that in 2010, 11-ish, Instagram came around, which changed the communication quite significantly, right? It somehow not replaced Facebook, but it has become more used by others. So the communication will change with this surely. Also, what else can I imagine? It could, I mean, both planets represents future. So now it could indicate that Taurus, who is very fixed, very stubborn, very present orientated. So we are going to have our butts kicked to move forward. And this is something I also mentioned in previous videos, that certain people who will resist the change, unfortunately, they're going to lose. Because something is going to get forced upon us. So the reason why I say that is because Pluto will be trining at Jupiter. And then eventually Pluto and Uranus will be having a trine as well, 27. So the changes are coming. And then if we do not embrace that, it looks to me that, I'm going to give you an example here, which I know it's very sensitive to people, but hey, what can I say? Such as, 80% of the population said, oh, they're not going to take the vaccine. But then certain countries said, okay, you don't take the vaccine, no problem, you cannot work. So then many people got forced to take the vaccine against COVID. So imagine situations here as well. Okay, you do not want, I don't know, digital currency. You still want to be dealing with cash. No problem. Then I'm going to burn the cash or whatever, So somehow it's going to get forced upon us. I also would like to mention, by the way, that in 2010 and 11, in certain European countries, they introduced the immediate taxing system. So if you go to the shop and then you buy something, the shop immediately pays the tax to the government. And this might get very popularized, for example, with this upcoming conjunction as well. So both planets are about future, and then we can be worried about what is coming. It can be in the sign of Taurus, it can be difficult to accept how the future looks like. Also, this could talk to us about questioning authority figures. So questioning whether this banker, for example, should be leading a bank, or even a prime minister, something to do with world leaders. So I can imagine around that too. Questioning whether there is democracy in the world. Obviously, both planets are really future forward. So we need to be remaining optimistic about the future, that the future is going to get better. And I'm a very firm believer that this decade is really difficult. And I think from next decade onwards, we kind of getting into more like a paradise compared to these decades. So this is something I have been saying for a few years as well, that 2020 until 2030 is going to be very difficult. The reason why, because we have got 6 major planetary shifts. So we've got Pluto just moving into the sign of Aquarius. We're going to have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the sign of Aries. We had the Saturn-Jupiter new 20-year cycle starting in 2020, and so forth. So we've got 6 of them. And what happens is that people are reluctant to make changes. We are fear-driven. And with that Pluto Jupiter, for example, we are reminded that if you are able to keep your optimism alive and you are able to conquer your fears, then you are going to be able to basically create abundance for yourself. I mean, Pluto, Jupiter together is all about richness. But we're not going to see that immediately. I don't think we're going to see that in 2024 June. There is going to be, unfortunately, a clash or a fall, but it will be coming. After it will be coming. And I think it will be coming with the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction eventually. Anyway, moving forward, then obviously it happens in the sign of Taurus, which is about money. Uranus, Jupiter could talk to us about technology. So that's why we mentioned the electronic money to be coming around. It could also indicate, just some silly examples, but maybe a weird authority figure is gonna come on a throne. Imagine that it's going to be a drag queen, for example. All these sexual questions belong to Uranus. So most likely the LGBTQ movement is going to get a lot bigger. And I can imagine that those will be the people who go on the streets. And to be frank, looking at the current situations where we have got issues around Olympic Games and any type of competitions and, a drag or whatever they are called, even being, not straight, but I'm getting confused with 100 genders and so forth. So I cannot keep up with it. And she, he, and them, and so forth. So it's just too complicated for me. And obviously, Taurus talks about simplicity. And Uranus, Jupiter, none of them are famous for their simplicity. Those are more about complexity. Now, anyway, so, I can imagine some type of protest against, I don't know, this kind of drag queen playing against, or competing against a proper woman, a biological woman. So I think we're going to see more and more of those. It could also talk to us about, because Jupiter is the star maker. So it could talk to us, the danger of Jupiter is that it kind of believes that it knows everything. And then Uranus, who is the criminal, comes around and steals the idea from Jupiter. So this could even talk to us about that, I come up with an idea and someone else gets the Nobel Prize for it. And then it becomes a kind of like a scandal. Surely the Nobel Prize and these type of things are going to be very significant also because of major discoveries. Then the revolution of the financial system, and I think the taxing system is going to be changing also. And I think people will see tax relief. So, Germany, you pay 50%. Belgium and Switzerland, you pay 54% tax and so forth. And I read recently that Dubai is getting forced to tax foreign companies by the world economy because they believe that it's not fair that companies do not have to pay taxes there. But Dubai is saying, listen, I make enough money. I don't need poor people's tax. But anyway, it looks like Dubai is going to agree to charge 9% tax on other people or on foreign companies and so forth. So, but I can imagine that there's going to be a tax relief for people. So that would be a positive sign of that. What else did I say? I said that maybe there's going to be a step down of a very important banker or political figure, for example, like a financial minister. It could also talk about the birth of brilliant teachers. So we can expect that the education system is going to be changing significantly. maybe they're going to introduce new subjects at school in regards to money, self-worth, and psychology matters. So imagine that, I don't know, they're going to teach matters. So a little bit more of a psychological approach. Also, I think environmental protection is going to become big. Taurus rules security, protections. So this could be a kind of like a project to save animals, to save the earth. Taurus rules anything to do with livestock. So I can imagine something to do with more farming, people raising their chickens and so forth. You know, I think it's going to be a big business somehow, the animal products, catering, and so forth.
Well, they're
Also,
doing right now the opposite. They want farms to close down, cows, animals to be closed down. But you think there will be change in that?
they might be changing it, or people are going to just start,
Rebel.
deciding that, you know what, the chicken is too expensive, for example. I'm just going to raise them at home, and
Mhm.
that's cheaper. You know, one of my friends, for example, have got pigs, and she makes very good money from them. She started with 3 pigs 2 years ago, and then within 2 years, all of a sudden she had 45, 50 pigs, because pigs like having a bit of a sex every other day. So they have got loads now. So she started selling them and so forth. She makes pretty good money from it, but she has got quite a big place for it. And obviously the pain in the butt are that you have to clean quite a lot. Also, it could indicate, I mean, with Uranus, we always want to break something down. Imagine the Tower card in Tarot. That's, for me, is very Uranian. We've got a lightning bolt. So that's why Uranus represents anything to do with genius ideas. And uh, and then you know, Tarot, from a Tarot point of view, whether that tower is going to be standing or is going to fall down, for me, it's also very Taurian. How stable that tower is. Can it survive a lightning strike? So, and then what are you going to do? Are you going to jump out of the tower, or are you going to stay there because you want to hold on to something? So psychologically, it's very important to learn when to keep something as in your possession or get rid of it, or when to move on from it and, let's say, start a new business venture. And I think that could be the major failure of many people when they want to hold on to something in the next couple of years, not selling something on time, and then no one will want it after. So for me, on a personal level, Jupiter plays a very big role in real estate market. I'm slowing down. So no more real estate for me for a couple of years. I am 100% sure that in 25, 26, properties will become a lot cheaper. So I'm just going to save up a little bit of money, and that's it. The other thing, obviously, Taurus rules banking system. So the major question could be here is whether the banking system is safe or not. And I'm sure people, have got that question in mind. And with Uranus, that's, unfortunately, Uranus is about stealing. So we might have got some scandals coming up, as in, that money got taken out of people's account, maybe just $1, maybe just, €1, and so forth. So these type of things can be revealed as well. And maybe that's why someone is going to get dismissed, for example, from their job. I mean, Uranus rules criminals, not these shoplifters, though. This is more to do
Mastermind.
with the mastermind
Mastermind.
criminals, right? Because Mercury is the shoplifter, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So that's the mastermind behind those shoplifters. Um, so unfortunately, this could also talk about how much the food is gonna cost, the rise of the food costs. And then unfortunately, people will start stealing more as well because they cannot buy a loaf of bread. and so forth. So that's again another negative side on that. It could also talk to us about just the revolution of the banking system. And most likely, I would be expecting loads of technological issues around that. Imagine, for example, that someone is trying to hack, for example, a bank or a bank application and so forth. And that's how money is going missing. It could talk to us about the structure of institutions and how they are going to be changing, how the law is going to be changing. It could talk to us about actually the cost of building materials. It could also talk to us about new source of electricity coming around, and the recent one is going to get replaced somehow. Let's not forget that Taurus rules the resources of the earth. And we are all aware that somehow we are running out of it. So there is going to be technological advancements to somehow replace those. I can imagine, for example, that animal cloning is going to become a major topic in the next 13 years. And I would like to remind everyone that the previous cycle, 2011, that was the Dolly, the sheep, the very first cloned animal done in Scotland, I think. And that was also during the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction previously.
You're absolutely right, because now they already do lab-grown meat. They don't even want to raise the animal. I think in the next 12 years with this new cycle, they'll be pushing a lot that people eat something very technologically developed like that.
Yeah, I mean, technologically modified and so forth. Unfortunately, I think it is in the picture on the horizon. This could also talk to us about that, for example, kids are not going to go to school anymore. Such as, because if you think about that Taurus, the exalted ruler of Taurus is Moon. It's kind of like for me the stay-at-home mom type of thing.
Oh, they'll be
I don't.
homeschooling.
So homeschooling and everything is done pretty much online. And it makes sense because I heard in Hungary that they don't switch on heating, for example, in winter either, because it costs so much that they allow the kids to be in jackets and so forth, because the schools cannot pay for electricity and so forth. That's why so many restaurants closed down as well, because they were not able to pay the bill anymore and the profit wasn't that great. So obviously, people will have to figure out, what to do. So in that sense, that's why the delivery system, I think, is going to get a lot bigger, so the online technology is going to be blooming. And when people are, I'm going to give you an example here. I had a client yesterday, a lovely lady, and all this configuration, what I was looking at, it really kind of, I told her that you needed to change your way how you look at your business. She had in the business chart a Saturn Sun opposition, which is very much talking about, on one hand, that restricting her visibility. The Sun was on the midheaven as well. And then I asked her about her online presence. And she said, well, it's not really there. So, when people are reluctant to use online platforms to make a better life for themselves, I think it's not that great, right? So we need to use the tools available, what we've got, and that's Taurus. Use the tools, what you've got available for your own benefit. This is the only time when the success is going to come with the Jupiter and Uranus, which, as I said previously, that's something to do with lottery winning. Now, on a personal level, what do I owe? What to invest into? How does the global market look like? What does make you feel secure and stable? What does security mean for you? What did you learn about yourself? How do you try to protect yourself? Let's not forget that Taurus is still the first quadrant. So it's really about the self. In the sign of Aries, we were more about entitlement that I want these type of things. Now in Taurus, we keep those things so that because it makes us feel secure. It's kind of like, you know, you get a toy, you were crying at the shop for mommy that you want a toy. The Taurus is keeping that toy because that's the very first, you know, kind of achievements I had in a way, right? So that's very, you know, and then this Uranus is asking you to pretty much let go of it. So the protection of the self. So this could really talk to us about the survival needs of people as well, by the way. Also, what else did I mention here? So rules and regulations around money, recession is possible, unfortunately, and I think the recession is coming. 25, 26, I put my neck on it, or, you know, I think it's coming. Unemployment rates, I think this could be also a big topic. I think it's going to hit a very extremely high, record high numbers. I think the record high was 10% in UK between 2008 and 2010. So I'm looking to see more than 12% coming up with the unemployment rates in certain countries. Which sounds scary, I know, but if you start thinking about that, bigger companies are replacing the human hands with robots, and that is coming in the food industry, then what people will do, you know? So I'm expecting that. And then the other thing I'm expecting, especially from 26 onwards, but I think we're going to start seeing that with Uranus and Jupiter, but the inflation rate is going to be extremely high as well.
Oh, it's been already. So it's just,
I mean, we only saw some bits and bobs on it. Also, Taurus can be looked at, you know, because it's on the Scorpio axis. So we can look at it as in debts as well. And it made me think the other day that obviously I was looking at the historical data, how much money US gave to other countries in the previous cycle of Jupiter and Uranus, or maybe 2 cycles ago. They were giving loads of money to Europe and so forth. And then looking at the economical situation of US at the moment, I mean, trying to finance 2 wars and so forth. So where does that leave US? US will have to fight to get their own money back somehow, you know? So for me, from a financial point of view, that's why I'm a little bit worried. And that's why I'm worried that the last Jupiter and Uranus conjunction took place in 1941, which was the heat of the World War II. That's why I'm really scared that this Jupiter Uranus might not go down really well from 25, 26 onwards. The other thing I'd like to mention here very briefly is that, okay, so we've got this Saturn Jupiter cycle, which gets triggered by the Jupiter Uranus cycle. But then 2024, we've got the Saturn Jupiter square going on anyway as well. Straight after the conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter. So obviously the new cycle started in 2020. We had all the problems with deliveries and so forth. And the square in the cycle is always showing a crisis situation. So an element of crisis is on the way, unfortunately. So basically, to summarize up on that, if someone wants to invest until June, and then after, just be very careful with it. That's what I would say, because I think by August, September, there's going to be major. Sorry, my laptop wants to die, so I'm gonna put that in charger.
Oh, and I wanted to ask you something. Because this Uranus conjunct Jupiter at 22 degrees is going to happen right on the sun of Israel, opposite So it's happening exactly on the Sun of Israel on the cusp of the second house. So how do you think that might work?
You know, it
In
might
the cusp
be
of the
because I'm
eighth
also.
house, sorry, eighth house, in the cusp of the eighth house.
So the eighth house, which is military services and opponents. So this could pretty much involve situation where, for example, a third country is going to get involved and somehow trying to knock them out in a way. I think this Jupiter-Uranus can escalate that war even further. But to be honest, I did not look at their charts much. Just whatever you are saying to me, it would talk to me about, for example, that they are going to be buying weapons or something like that. Something shadiness going down there for me. Um, or someone else also gets involved in that situation.
And also the European Union's chart is strongly activated. I try to share my screen, but I can't. It's right the conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus on the moon of the European Union, which is the people, but the moon is in the 10th house of the rulers. Opposite, exactly opposite. It's conjunction of Pluto and Mars in Scorpio in the 4th house of the land of the people. So I'm thinking it's going to be not so good for the European Union. Uranus is about divorce, separation, rebellion. How do you see that?
Exactly the same. Thank you for mentioning, because that's also my notes as well, that I think at least two countries will leave the EU. And I think one might be more of a rich country, and the other country is going to get knocked out due to their law system, education system, and so forth. So I would not be shocked if Hungary got kicked out of the EU, for example. Personally, I think they will, and therefore I'm looking into some citizenship programs to remain somehow with a European passport so that I can travel freely. I'm already looking into that because, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Hungary got kicked out of the EU. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anything
So
more?
much, you know, but I'm bright about, I mean, I'm very positive about the future. I think Uranus and Jupiter will definitely bring something good, but the goodies are in the next decade rather than an immediate one. Chaos is gonna come first before it gets better, unfortunately. You know, on a personal level, it's very much about you being shooken up a little bit. You know, it is wanting you to leave some of your outdated belief systems behind. It wants you to have faith. It wants you to search for your own truth. It wants you to see the world from an unorthodox way as well. Often what happens with Jupiter and Uranus together is that we do not feel that we belong in a way, because, you know, they might have had they hardly can associate themselves with the way they were raised. So often what happens is that I don't belong to this earth. So people might, you know, want to go. Oh, by the way, it could also, with this Jupiter and Uranus, it could easily talk to us about things such as the travel visa is going to be changing. Or something to do with migration. That could be a big topic coming up with this, because, you know, one of the reasons I move around is because I'm not willing to pay 25 euro for a chicken at the shop. It's crazy. In some countries, you pay 20, 25 euro for a chicken. In Thailand, I bought a whole chicken for €1.50. You know what I mean? So if one country can do it, why the other one cannot? You know, so there is an element of greediness with this. And Jupiter is the planet of greediness. So unfortunately, the greediness can escalate so much that just people cannot take it anymore, you know? Now, I wanted to show a couple of things. I don't know if I can share the
Yeah,
screen.
I've allowed you to share.
So just very briefly, I wanted to bring up actually the chart. I love it when I'm not on my own Zoom and I don't know how to do things. Um,
This.
it doesn't come up with share.
Oh.
Okay, I might not be able to share the screen. I'm just blind, don't worry. Okay, so in case someone uses solar fire, then you just click on that little icon there, and then you just have to change. I mean, you have to find Uranus and conjunction to Jupiter. Oh, here you go. And the date is great. Okay. And then it's going to list all the dates when there is a conjunction taking place. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Quit. I forgot to replace the stuff here. Jupiter, Uranus. Replace. Here you go. 24. So here is going to be the chart. Now, a couple of things what I wanted to show here, what is quite exciting in this chart. And I wanted to simplify it as much as possible because I know it's loads of information. Disregard the house positions because it pretty much depends where you are. So this one is erected for New York. Disregard the house system. That's not necessarily what I want to be showing here. So remember that the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction takes place in Taurus. Now, how I work with charts is that firstly, I'm going to be looking at where the dispositor of that chart, of that combination is. So that's Venus. Look at Venus on 19 degree of Aries, right in conjunction to the North Node. So this is very much about learning, as in North Node, to value Venus, yourself, Aries. It's about being able to know that you are entitled to have things. You are number one priority for yourself. This is inviting you to be more kind of like embracing the fact that you are allowed to be, you have got existence, and that's okay. Also, we have got Chiron sitting right next to Venus as well, which is very much about healing your self-worth, which is very much about listening to your inner wisdom to find someone who is going to put you on the right path. It shows relationship issues, for example, in the world. So this is unfortunately another factor which I would consider in this chart is that unfortunately, when you are fighting for your own existence, that you're going to have clashes with others.
Oh,
And I also would like to point out that now this is an important time as well because we have got the Pluto, North Node, South Node, Venus T square, which started on 21 degree of Libra to 21 degree of Aries. And how interesting that Venus is going to be very close to that. So to reply, Lada, to your question, because the war recently started with this Pluto North Node, Venus, either this is showing the end of it or it's showing the escalation of that even further, especially because Venus in Aries is kind of like not a ladylike position. That's more about, I call it as an Angelina Jolie position, because Angelina Jolie always plays in, with
so
gun. Yeah, she's got always roles with guns and stuff like that. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention here is that the downfall of a sign is always the detrimental ruler of a sign. So Taurus is ruled by Venus, that's great. The ruling planet can always turn things around. So even though Venus is in the sign of Aries, you know what? It can be challenging because it's detrimental, but it can also be very positive. The real downfall of a sign is always the detrimental ruler of the sign. So Taurus detrimental ruler is Mars. So worth having a look at where Mars is in this chart. And then what I'm seeing there, that Mars is in conjunction to Neptune, bang on opposing Moon. And Moon is on a critical degree as well, 29 degree. So people are living in a la-la land. And Mars is trying to wake us up. So when you are not seeing real, when you do not see what is right in front of you, when you are blinded by your faith and so forth, then that's when things can go really wrong with this Jupiter and Uranus conjunction on a personal level. So this is just the snapshot of the chart. There is a lot more to mention. I can bring in asteroids and so forth, but I think it's going to be enough for the audience um, to go about and think about how they can make the most of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction.
Thank you so much.
From a date point of view, what did you start in 2020? September or December time? Because the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction took place September by mean conjunction and December by true conjunction. If you started something there, maybe this Jupiter and Uranus can skyrocket you with that. Watch out for 20th of January, because it's going to reveal, I think, a lot about what to expect with this conjunction forward. But also look back what happened in your life 2000, approximately around May. That's when we had the last, the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction on 22 degree of Taurus. So for example, on a personal level, it happened on my Chiron. And that's when I started. My grandma died in February. And then in May, basically, I went to rent out a video where I found a tarot card reader's business card. And then she was my first teacher who taught me how to read tarot cards, analyzing drawings, kinesiology, touch for health, all these type of things. So that Saturn Jupiter started building up my future business in a way. So that is a very sensitive degree there. So if someone has got 21 or 22 degree, and I don't think I would give a bigger role this time around because, this is a slow moving energy. So 21, 22 degree, max 23, and then it makes aspects to your natal chart, then it's going to be quite a big year for you, 24, 25. So personally, it's trining my Mercury bang on
Nice.
to the second, actually. So it's the 7th house rule and the 4th house rule. Let's see how many times am I going to be moving in the next 1 year. How many more times? Or how many partners I'm going to have, So that's another one. But anyway.
Well, I can give an example. Last time Jupiter and Uranus conjuncted in Aries 2010, that's when I released my first astrology video. And so I would recommend to young astrologers initiate now, or even if it's not astrology, some new ideas, try and initiate it. It didn't immediately happen, but in those 12, 13-year cycles, I've been reaping a lot of, I would say, opportunities and wealth through that and growth. So it can be very positive from my perspective. The last
Definitely. I mean, the very first interview we had 5 years ago, I chose that when Jupiter was on my Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And on that day, I had part of fortune also there. And natally, I have got part of fortune very close to Jupiter-Uranus as well anyway.
Wow.
So, and then the first 1 week, I had 400 orders. I was scratching my head. How am I going to finish this off? Jesus Christ. So yes, surely this is the lottery winner aspect.
Suddenly the doors can open. For me, it was overnight. I was very uncomfortable, but it's a blind jump in a faith. Jupiter is faith. Uranus is a jump. Have a jump of faith. And for me, overnight, suddenly hundreds of thousands of views. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm an astrologer now.
Yeah. So it's definitely a lucky break. Even though I think Taurus slows it down a little bit, Aries obviously is faster, it's speeding things up. But the most important is that when you have got a great idea, do not allow others to steal it from you. Jump right onto it and take a risk. And you're gonna have to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah, basically that's the best people can do with this aspect. And then you become a lottery winner somehow. Many people ask me, by the way, what house rules lottery winning and so forth, because people are gonna ask this question. Very briefly on that, 11th house rules lotteries, because there's the second from the 10th. That's the government's money. And lottery winners have got loads of sesqui squares in their chart, which is a 135-degree aspect. Typically between Jupiter, Pluto, Jupiter, Neptune, Jupiter, Uranus, and they might be connected somehow to the financial houses. So if you want to ask the question whether you're going to win on the lottery with this Jupiter, Uranus, do you have sesqui squares? Does it do something with your financial houses, especially? And yeah, I mean, 70% of the lottery winners had sesqui squares, 135-degree aspects.
Wow.
So here is the solution for lottery.
And if you don't, just push yourself and take a leap of faith.
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket as well around that time.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, because I'm going to have a sesqui square actually to my natal Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So that's why I'm going to buy a lottery ticket around that. On that week, I'm going to buy one each day. Surely.
And Viktor is retiring in June 2024. No more astrology.
Let's hope. Let's hope that I win the lottery. Yeah.
Well, also, I made like something like I asked people online, do you all remember what happened in the last Uranus Jupiter conjunction? And they all said, probably 70% of people said incredible travels that year. So just like you said, the travel industry will pick up. If you can go travel somewhere, a new place you've never been, probably that's a very good time. April, May, so even from March, they're closed the whole spring, from the beginning of the year till June and onwards, they're close together. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely travel is a good one for it. And then with Taurus, something peaceful, something like gardens or beautiful scenes, and so forth, you know, so that could be a great idea, surely, as a remedy for that.
Thank you so much, Viktor. I absolutely love your insights. They're so profound, so multidimensional, cover so many topics. We covered all the topics that the world is interested in now just by this conjunction. And if anyone would like to contact Viktor, as you can see, he's an incredible teacher, astrologer, or study with him. He has hundreds of courses. I'll put the link below, and his new course on medical astrology live. And also, if you want to meet him personally, his February retreat in Mexico, we'll put our links below. Thank you so much, Viktor.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.